Welcome to the Creative Revolution Show, where we talk about music, art, and the lives of creative people, and throw in some information about plant-based nutrition. My name is Ron.
And my name is Sharine. Thanks for joining us today. Our mission, as always, is to inspire you to be creative in your own life. Today, Ron and I are completely delighted to have on this episode of the Creative Revolution Show our dear friend and great winemaker, Sherrie Holzer. Welcome, Sherrie.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me, Ron and Sharine.
A pleasure.
Yeah, this is great. So let's jump right in here. So please share with our audience, who is Sherrie Holzer?
My name's Sherrie Holzer. I'm a winemaker in Paso Robles, California. And for those of you that don't know Paso Robles, it's the best wine region in the world. We're directly between LA and San Francisco along the Central Coast. I make wine from grapes all over California, Napa, Sonoma, Alexander Valley, Russian River, but my main focus is on the Central Coast, meaning Monterey, Paso, and Santa Barbara. I'm a wine consultant, meaning I don't have one brand that I deal with. I have multiple clients, and that allows me to work on multiple projects and diversify winemaking all over the board.
Adding to that question, how and when did you get started in making wine?
My background into wine wasn't your typical one. Often it's you're inheriting a family vineyard or a chateau, and you're the third generation winemaker in your family. My background was not that. I grew up in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where we did not have vineyards and not even a large wine drinking population at the time. I was going to community college, just studying botany and chemistry. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with that. That was my interest, but I thought maybe medical or pharmaceuticals. While I was going to college, I was waiting tables at a very fancy resort restaurant and started to learn about wines and taste wines and start to appreciate wines. As I was wrapping up my last year of community college, my girlfriends and I took a spring break trip over to the Washington wine country. One of our last stops, the winemaker was in the tasting room, and I had asked him, about his background and, is he the third generation winemaker? And I was absolutely shocked that he told me he just went to college and got a degree making wine, and I had never heard of such a thing. I was just so delighted, and it was just mind-blowing to me that I, not having a background, could actually become a winemaker. It seemed a perfect marriage of botany and chemistry. And as soon as we got home from our trip, I started researching, what school do I need to go to? And probably 6 months later, I ended up in Fresno, California, and I was getting enrolled in school, ready to go to Fresno State, and ended up graduating, making my first wine in 2007.
What a great adventure. Oh my gosh. Very exciting.
Yeah.
So as a winemaker, what led you then to specialize in bubbles?
Well, it was a selfish reason. I like to drink bubbles, therefore I want to make bubbles. And I do make a lot of sparkling wine, and you get bored as a winemaker or as an artist, as you and Ron probably know. You start to branch out and want to do different things. Making sparkling wine is a lot more difficult than making still wine or regular wine. Red wine is easy to make. Sparkling wine, it's difficult. There's a challenge to it, and I'm up for the challenge.
So a lot of people might not know the difference, that there's a very distinct and important difference between what we call champagne and what is known as sparkling wine or bubbles. What is that? How would you explain that in the best way to our viewers?
Yes, thank you. I was just about to say, let's discuss what each one is first. So sparkling wine is versus a still wine. A still wine is a regular wine without bubbles, Chardonnay, Cabernet, Merlot, and a sparkling wine is a carbonated wine. So there's still wine that I'll kind of interchange with sparkling wine. A lot of people confuse champagne with sparkling wine and interchange those words. They are, made the same process, but Champagne is sparkling wine from a very specific small region of Champagne, France. It's very controlled. You can only grow 3 different grapes. You can only grow a certain amount of tons there. You have to pass a tasting panel to be called champagne. So it's very strict. Anywhere else outside of Champagne is just called a sparkling wine. So a lot of people ask me, how do you like making champagne? I said, I would love to make champagne. I don't make champagne, I make sparkling wine because I'm not in Champagne region. But so anywhere else in France, it's called Cremant. And in Italy, it's called Prosecco. And in Spain, it's called Cava. It's all sparkling wine, but Champagne is very specific to Champagne region.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
I was like, please don't ask me about making champagne. I make sparkling wine. But yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I won't ask
then
you
let's
about
go ahead and
making
ask.
champagne. I won't ask. I won't.
But we will ask you about the process of making sparkling wine. What's it all about? Because I'm just learning too.
It's hard. So making sparkling wine is just very technical. It's so unforgiving. I feel like making a red wine's pretty easy. If you have a flaw in a red wine, you can add some oak, you can add some tannins, and you can cover up a lot of flaws. Where sparkling wine is just very unforgiving. As soon as you have any flaw and then you add bubbles to it, your flaw is just so amplified. So to start with, you have no you just have no leeway. You have to have such a clean, beautiful, pristine base wine to start with. So sparkling wine is making a still wine or a base wine. Let's use Chardonnay. So the Chardonnay grapes come into the winery. We press them. You have a Chardonnay juice. We'll add yeast to that Chardonnay, and the yeast converts the sugar in the juice into alcohol. So then you have a Chardonnay wine. From there, we want to add carbonation to the Chardonnay to make it a sparkling wine. That's not as easy as it sounds. When you add yeast to juice, the yeast are happy. They're thriving in this condition. They naturally want to ferment. But yeast are very, very sensitive to any alcohol. Alcohol is poison to yeast. So when you have a sparkling base, such as Chardonnay, you can't just throw yeast in there and expect them to make more bubbles, because when you throw the yeast into the Chardonnay wine, it will kill them. So the long process, and probably the most important part of my job, is building a yeast culture. And this is taking the Chardonnay wine and slowly adding yeast to it, so you don't shock the yeast, you don't kill the yeast. The yeast have to build up a tolerance for the alcohol. So then this is about a 14-day process. And then if you make sourdough or bread, you probably know this process of constantly feeding your yeast and keeping it alive.
It takes me about 14 days to build up a tolerance too. So
same here, I would say. Right, I was going to agree to that myself.
Yeah,
and
it's unforgiving.
I have to agree too. The making of the red wine, I'm going to just say it's easier because Sharine and I made red wine for a while, and we were able to make it good.
Yeah. Well, and someone here in our studio helped us to do that, right? Sherrie.
You could definitely make red wine in your garage and you can be successful, but it would be really difficult for you to make a sparkling wine in your garage. So I think that's the difference too. So after building up this beautiful yeast culture, you're singing to it, you're talking to it, you're rotating it into different rooms. Are you too hot? Are you too cold? You just have to baby this yeast culture along and get it to thrive and be strong enough to then throw into your tank of Chardonnay that has alcohol and have it be able to ferment and make bubbles. So once you're there and your yeast culture is ready and it's thriving, the most important job after that is you're bottling this Chardonnay into the bottle, and it's the actual bottle that you're drinking that you get at the grocery store. So that's its little fermentation vessel. Each bottle from the grocery store, that's where this wine lived and was made. So you have your Chardonnay still wine that you bottle into this bottle, and then you're adding your little bit of yeast culture to and kind of downplaying that. The yeast culture is extremely important. It's extremely calculated. For each bottle of wine, you have to add 10 millionth yeast cells per milliliter of sparkling wine. And there's a lot of math involved. And the reason that's so important is that if you don't add enough yeast to your bottle, you're going to have a flat little bubbles. You're going to take off the cork and, you don't get the pop. You're not excited. It's a dud. And if you add too much yeast culture and miscalculate the yeast cells per bottle, you're going to explode the bottles, which is kind of why we're talking about it's a little dangerous. There's a lot of exploding bottles out in the winery, and we're constantly wearing eyewear. It's an explosive situation. The ultimate goal is to have each bottle be 7.5 atmospheres, which sounds very technical, but that is the ultimate amount of bubbles that everyone will enjoy. So it's very technical. There's a lot of math. There's a lot of chemistry. There's a lot of microbiology. But yeah, that's the fun part. That's the excitement.
And then they lay down, right?
So the next step, after you get past your tirage bottling, tirage, and Sherine, you would know this, but it roughly translates to on flats, like entourage. So after we get the bottle of Chardonnay with the yeast culture, we actually add, it's not your cork that you're used to. We add a little, what we call a crown cap or a beer cap. And so the bottle gets this crown cap on top. There's this cute little plastic thing. It's called a bedule. So the bedule goes on top of the bottle with the crown cap. And then the bottles are laid down. And this is where they age for anywhere from 6 months to 6 years. And they're in these giant wooden bins, and they lay flat next to each other. And this is where they lay with their yeast, and hopefully the yeast then makes alcohol and bubbles. And the reason that they lay flat and not just straight up is you get more, there's a bottle, you get more surface area with the yeast laying flat, then you get more yeast characteristics. If you had it like this, only this much of your wine would get any yeast characteristics. And it's important for sparkling wine to get that yeasty characteristics. And by that, I mean brioche and toast and creme brulee and this creaminess and this elegance. So they just lay there in these little bins on their side for about 4 years on average, and fermenting away and making little bubbles. We'll know when we didn't calculate it right because we'll hear these little explosions. And some bottles maybe got a little more yeast than others. But so that process is called entourage. That's the tirage bottling.
Well, counting to 10 million is got to be really hard.
It's really hard.
1, 2.
It is really hard.
Do you have elves working in the winery helping
just click, click, click. So then the final step. So there's 3 steps. There's the still wine making, which is we're just making the Chardonnay base. The second step is tirage bottling, and that's when we're adding the yeast and making the bubbles. And the final step, we're ready. We've been testing the wine. It has the right carbonation. There's no more sugar left. We're happy. So that step is called disgorging. And I said in the beginning, each bottle is its own little fermentation vessel. So you're going to end up with all this yeast sediment in the bottle. And then the goal is you have to get that yeast out of the bottle because no one wants cloudy bubbles. It has to be clear and pristine. So it goes into this riddling step where the yeast is laying on the side, and you have to slowly get all of that yeast down into this crown cap, this little beer cap, and get it down there clean. You don't want any on the side because it needs to be absolutely clear and pristine. Most riddling done these days is automated. Back in the day and back in Champagne, you would have these A-framed riddling racks with the bottles, and people turn them a quarter turn every day to try to get the yeast down to the crown cap. Everything most days is automated now. So you have this really cool cage, this metal cage that holds 500 bottles. And this cage rotates in the air and shifts and gyrates, and it's actually called gyro pallet. But it takes about 5 days to shake all that yeast down to the neck of the bottle. And once you have all your yeast down to the neck of the bottle, then you have to get it out of the bottle. So in order to do that, it has to freeze. We freeze the top of the necks in this glycol bath. It's about 25 degrees. And so when we pop the crown cap off, the beer cap off, the frozen little plug of yeast shoots out. Hopefully you don't lose a lot of your bubbles in the meantime. And then we just top off each bottle, so there'll be some gushing with more of the same wine, and then it gets its real cork. And the cork is pretty amazing. It doesn't go all the way in. You can see it kind of mushrooms off, so only half of the cork goes in. The bottle's under a lot of pressure, 7.5 atmospheres to be very technical. So in order to keep that cork on there without shooting someone in the face and poking their eye out, you have to put this little metal wire cage on top, and otherwise they would just be popping on their own without your help.
Yeah. Are you a fan of the Christmas Story?
I am familiar with it. I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but
Oh, because then that wasn't the line in there was always, "You're gonna shoot your eye out."
yeah, the BB gun, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So let's
that's why
take
you always have eyewear. Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a question from one of our callers. So caller number 5, you're on the air. What is your question for the Creative Revolution show guest, Sherrie Holzer? Oh, I'm sorry, we lost the feed. Let's go to Sharine. Sharine, did you want to? Do you have any other questions you want to ask?
No, I think we were going to talk about, how you feel, Sherrie, about your creative processes with both the still wine and also with the sparkling wine, how it's impacting the community in a creative way.
Well, I think that goes back to being part of the Paso Robles wine community. Yeah, as opposed to maybe some more prestigious wine areas, we're very collaborative here with our projects and helping each other out, and also, making different blends, using different grapes, breaking those blending rules. And as far as the sparkling wine, that's what I think is actually pretty cool about the sparkling wine. Traditionally, I was saying you can only use Chardonnay, you can only use Pinot Noir and Pinot Meunier. But in Paso, like our regular red and white blends, we're actually making a lot of different sparkling with, some untraditional grapes. We're doing a Gruner Veltliner, we're doing Gewürztraminer, we're doing Albarino, we're doing Grenache. So it's just fun. And I feel like it's a collaborative effort to get Paso Robles on the map. And we've gone a long way in the last 5 years making Paso Robles this beautiful tourism wine region to visit. And I feel like sparkling wine is the next step. Most people don't come to Paso to expect to have really great sparkling wine. And so we're using non-traditional grapes and making sparkling wine and, just breaking all the rules.
We love that.
Rule breakers, like it.
Yeah. All right. So the next thing we should talk about is like maybe how we met. I just recall, I don't know, it's got to been like almost 10 years. What would you guys think? We've known each other for a while.
Close to 14 years, probably.
Yeah.
13,
14.
maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love the story how we met. It's fantastic. My husband and I had inherited this piano from a family member, and it was a beautiful, piece of furniture, but no one knew how to play it. And I felt if it was going to be our house, someone needs to learn how to play this instrument. So I was up for the task. It's kind of always in the back of my mind. I should learn how to play the piano, and it would be a fun instrument to play. At the time, I didn't want to fork out money for piano lessons, so I had done probably Craigslist ad like, "Hey, someone teach me how the piano." we'll give you wine in exchange. And I thought, there's no way anyone's going to take that ad seriously. But Sharine responded fairly quickly and said, I can teach you the piano and I like wine. So I started taking piano lessons from Sharine, and shortly, maybe it was probably our first meeting, my guess is we had hit it off right away. And Sharine said, hey, after our lesson, you know, Ron and I are making some red wine in the garage. Do you want to check this out? And that evolved to half maybe piano lessons, half let's go in the garage and see what's going on with the wine. And it turned into this collaborative winemaking / piano lesson project. And yeah.
And I remember you said to me, I want to test your wine. I want to help you. And I was like, yeah, what? And you were like, yes, I want to do this with you. And, you know, then our wines, we would enter them in local competitions and they were always winning, you know, top awards. So Sherrie was extremely instrumental in, you know, helping us then be part of that burgeoning wine AVA here in Paso. Even though we live in Atascadero, but you know, the whole region itself, you know, because we were contributing to that, making unusual blends, you know, the bastard Spaniard and that Pinot that we had to water down, just all kinds of really fun things. That huge Tempranillo, remember, just massive stuff.
We get a lot of questions from our audience members wanting to know, like, what kind of other well-rounded things that our guests do, like for fun and stuff like that, or hobbies and interests and things like that. So can you share with us some of the things you like to do for fun other than making wine and drinking wine? What other kind of things you do for fun, Sherrie?
Yeah, things I like to do besides drinking and making wine. I love to be outdoors mainly, and most of my hobbies revolve around that. Gardening, hiking along the Central Coast, running through the vineyards. I love cooking and entertaining. You know, they all kind of go back together with wine and family and friends. But yeah, I like to enjoy the beautiful weather we have here on the Central Coast and be outside, be at the beach, be hiking through the vineyards.
Well, Sherrie, I think this was a really nice introductory presentation for our viewers. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with them in general?
I would say maybe 2023 can be your year to explore new things. And meaning, I often, at the winery every day and the tasting room every day, I get, you know, I'm only a red wine drinker, or I don't like white wine, or I had a pink wine in 1980 and I don't like sweet wines. And, you know, sparkling wines are sweet, I don't like them. But I think, you know, people need to branch out a little bit, and the wines aren't the same that they used to be. And what I would encourage people to do, and that they would get from this is, you know, try white wine again. Don't just put yourself in a box of a red wine drinker. And not all pink wines are sweet anymore. There's beautiful rosés. And open up a sparkling wine on a Tuesday, and don't save, you know, champagne for New Year's Eve only. And I don't know, I just kind of want people to branch out and try everyone's products and have a little open mind. You might be surprised and find a different new wine you like, a new winery you like, and you know, be open to things in 2023. Try something new.
And come visit us in the Paso Robles area.
Yes.
It's gorgeous here all year long, isn't it?
It is. And if you're only a Napa wine drinker, come down here and check out what we're doing. You know, you'll find something really cool. It's a nice place to visit. It's unpretentious. There's just so much diversity here. You know, come check us out.
Well, what a great interview this has been. So thank you very much, Sherrie, for being a guest on the Creative Revolution. And you're always welcome to come back. We'd like to hear more for you and get an update as your bubbles are fermenting.
Yeah. Well, cheers, Sharine and Ron, and thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to come by and share bubbles with you.
All right. Thanks again, Sherrie, for joining us on the Creative Revolution show and this episode. It was very good. It's we live in a region where the wine business is quite prevalent, and she is definitely a part of it for sure and helped us along the way when we were winemakers. So what's going on with us? We have launched our living room concert series. Some of the performance will be us, maybe even solo. And then we're going to just add in some of our other friends who play music and make a thing out of it. At least probably try like once a month, I think would be a good thing. Started collaborations with Paul Shelley, who was a guest on our first episode. Paul's the guitar player and instructor in the Los Angeles area. We've been doing some remote recording. And so we got 2, possibly 3 out by now. And the next one that we're going to begin, a remote collaboration on recording video, is going to be the 3 of us. It'll be Paul, myself, and Sharine, and we're going to do a jazz standard. So we're projecting that out a month or 2 now, too.
What about Axe to Grind?
Oh, yeah. Can't forget Axe to Grind. It's not a band. It's a club. Axe to Grind is just a very relaxed environment where people could come and we all play. Some people come in without a lot of skill. It doesn't even matter. If you come with a open attitude, you want to come play in our sandbox and make some noise. Lots of fun. That's Axe to Grind. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll even have them on the show. We'll have some of the Axe to Grind members.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
I think that would be fun. And then I want to mention here too, I have a new YouTube channel which has various performances of myself, collaborations with Paul Shelley. Some are me playing ukulele. Some are basic instruction videos, but Ron Hagedorn, guitar coach, on YouTube. We'll put it in the show notes and on the screen so that you can take some time and go look at those videos and reach out to me if there's anything I can do and to help you, or maybe we'll find some more people to collaborate with. I think that would be fun. So let's find out what else is going on with Sharine.
Oh, I work on this cute little graphic design project for our folks at San Miguel Olive Farm. And there are these little hang tags that they tie onto their bottles of olive oil. They're just adorable and cute. And so that's really fun. They're heading off to print any day now, and very colorful. And like I said, very adorable. So that's fun. And, you know, as far as graphic design goes, I'm always doing something with photos. I mean, I just get inspired by something I take in the backyard, and I'm going to like go into On One Photo Raw and like work on it. It's just part of my passion. And as you know, I did the 365 Days of Gratitude photo journal that's available on Amazon. So it's just a great passion of mine.
It's a very cool thing. Go check it out and let us know what you think. Thanks. All right, what's cooking in the Vava Vegan kitchen?
There's always something cooking in the Vava Vegan kitchen, and I'm usually the one cooking it. So let's see, what have I been up to? Mexican lasagna with cilantro lime crema. Delicious, fabulous. To go kind of along with that, in that Hispanic food vibe, I made a warm chipotle spiced dip that I call drunken queso dip, even though I actually use a non-alcoholic beer, you know, but it's still delicious. I made a fabulous lentil vegetable sausage stew with black lentils. They're very delicious. Many of my entrees and sides and salads are loaded with cruciferous vegetables. So here's your nutrition tip for today. The cruciferous vegetables maximize nutritional intake because they have a ton of phytochemicals in them. Those are micronutrients as well, and they also help ward off chronic disease. They're verifiable, replicable, repeated studies that show that this diet can stave off a lot of really bad problems. So that's one of the reasons why we eat it. Viewers can read more about this. Go to substack.com. So it's substack.com. And I have a blog. So you can just go into the search bar and type in Va Vegan Chef, all one word. and you will come up with my blog. You can subscribe for free and get some of the articles and a couple of recipes for just for subscribing. And you can also pay this very small monthly fee and have access to all of it. There's some just amazing, delicious recipes like cracked potatoes, right, Ron?
That's right. And hey, you know, I was like following the comments here over on the screen, and it was Jeff and Maria in locally here. I won't say where they're at, but they want to know what is with that background screen you got, Sharine. Look at that. What the heck is that thing?
Oh, well, I picked this out specifically for Sherrie. And speaking of my graphic design projects, this is one of the photos that is in the journal. It is actually, I'll step all the way up to the side. It's a caged cork. So this cork has been sabered, cut off of a bottle of sparkling wine. Oh, it was a French sparkling wine. And so you can see the glass is cut off and the cage has been altered to allow that to happen. So I thought that was real fun to have as my background while Sherrie was here talking about sparkling wine and champagne. I sabered that champagne with my...
Yeah, you certainly did. The evidence is on the YouTube channel. That'd be probably the BlipsWerx channel, huh? We'll put all this stuff in the show notes where you can like see videos and keep up with what we're doing and stuff like that. So I think that's about it. I think we're going to wrap up this show. Again, thanks Sherrie Holzer for being on. In the upcoming episodes, you know, stay tuned because we're going to have more people. It seems like there's just like a never ending supply of creative people here in our lives right now, and hopefully your lives too. We're here to share that with you know, our friends and family, and you know, people who follow us on our social media. That's awesome. So once again, Creative Revolution Show. I'm Ron.
I'm Sharine.
And until we meet again.
Yeah, we're still making stuff up.